Hello and welcome everyone. I am Gaurav Dhupar and I am the senior official of International Association of Project Managers, India Network. So this is our second series of discussion on FLEKS hybrid model, which is about hybrid management. And we have with us Dr. Elio Costa, who is the developer of this FLEKS hybrid model. Welcome, Dr. Elio.
Welcome. Good afternoon for you here in Portugal. I'm here in Portugal. It's good morning for me and good afternoon for you. I think we are 5.5 hours before, isn't it? 5.5
Absolutely.
hours.
Yes.
Absolutely.
5.5 hours.
Okay.
Yes.
Gaurav, it's a great pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation. Okay. Thank you everyone to be here on your work time and to spend some time with me discussing with Gaurav our FLEKS model. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Elio. So before starting, I will just give a brief overview about the topic, which is hybrid management, and introduction about Dr. Elio. So as we all know that hybrid management has been prevalent for quite some time. So we do have traditional approaches which are more towards predictive project management, and then we have agile approaches, which is more towards adaptive practices. But there are times that the predictive and the adaptive approaches alone do not work very well. So we need to have a system or a model which can make use of best of the practices of predictive as well as adaptive project management practices. And it is not about which is better, predictive or adaptive. Here we are talking about predictive and adaptive, right? So that we can get best of both worlds. And at the same time, it also helps us in bringing reliability along with flexibility. So that's the intent of having hybrid project management, whether it's about program management, portfolio management, product management. So Dr. Elio will take you through more on the FLEKS hybrid model, but from the idea of hybrid management, this is the model which provides more flexibility. So we are not saying that, okay, whether it's a pure agile or pure waterfall, because we need to have a balance, a model which is very lean, which can help in bringing the best practices from both the worlds, right? So we'll talk about this FLEKS hybrid model in detail, but let me tell you briefly about Dr. Elio Costa. So Dr. Elio Costa is from Portugal, as he mentioned, and he's a senior consultant and professor. And
actually, I'm from Brazil. I'm living in Portugal. I'm from Brazil.
Sure. So he's from Brazil, right now in Portugal, right?
Yeah, I'm living in Portugal for the last 3 years.
Excellent. Okay. And Dr. Elio, for the last 30 years, was in military as aviator officer. So he was in Brazilian Air Force and flying different kinds of aircrafts, from fighter to cargos. The last 10 years of his career at Air Force were dedicated to information technology. And during this time, he has improved his educational formation in computer science and project management. And his main focus area is project, program, and portfolio risk management, and which was his topic for MSc and DSc and postdoctoral degrees. And in 2005, he became an MBA professor in project management and consultant, helping companies in the field of energy, petrochemicals, oil and gas, software development, military equipment, telecommunications, and civil engineering. And during this session, Dr. Elio will be discussing about the live case studies which have basically used FLEKS hybrid model in their day-to-day working. And he's also used to work under pressure with skills like leadership, presentation, and negotiation. And he has developed various techniques and tools to help practitioners better manage their projects. So with that, I'll just pass on the mic to Dr. Elio Costa to walk us through the FLEKS hybrid model. Over to you, Dr. Elio.
Okay, thank you, Gaurav. Well, as I said before, thank you very much, everyone, to be here. I'm going to share my screen right now, just for a small presentation. Are you seeing that right now? Can you see that?
Yes, Dr. Elio.
Okay. Okay. I just can see one's face here is Jasprit, no, Jasprit, Jasprit,
Yeah,
no.
you can just call me Jazz for short.
Okay, Jasprit. Okay, thank you, Jazz, for being here. Okay, let's do something. First of all, I'd like to explain why I created the FLEKS model. This is like Gaurav said. I've been working with projects for the last 20 something years, 22, 23 years. And originally I was using just predictive approaches. For the last 10 years around, I think something like this, I've been using adaptive approaches, agile, trying to use some approaches. But in my opinion, in my trainings and consultants, I have noted that there is a great war between what is best. This agile is the best, predictive is the best, one is the best. It's not a question of being best. It's a question of being which one you need. That's the problem. It's like something just like Jazz, you said, when you go to have lunch, for example, what is the best silverware, a knife or a spoon? It depends. It depends what you want. If you want to take a soup, for example, a knife would be useless for you. So this is the problem. And people are just trying to say, oh, agile is the best, predictive is the best. It's not a question of being the best. It's a question of what you need. And if you need a pure agile approach, use it. If you need a pure predictive approach, use it. But if you need both of them at the same time, you need flexibility from agile approaches and unique predictability from the predictive approaches, you don't have a model to do that. So this is why I started to develop these models, for especially FLEKS one, to allow people to have a foundation, to have something to guide, something to help them, and to show how to use both worlds at the same time. Not a question of excluding one, but putting them together. And this is what the magic from the FLEKS model, because you can use everything. You can use everything just on the same model. And I'm going to show you how to do this. Well, the first thing is, what's my definition of hybrid model? A hybrid approach. A hybrid approach is when you're using both practice at the same times. And that's not only agile, not pure predictive, but using both at the same time. And in this environment of a hybrid approach, you can run from a range, a huge range, that is not only predictive and not only agile. So everything else could be hybrid because it's a huge spectrum. So you can be using FLEKS, you can be a little bit more predictive or a little bit more agile, but everything in between a pure agile or a pure predictive is hybrid. That's the point. It's a huge spectrum that we can use it. And you're not focused only in one kind of industry that you're going to see on later in this presentation, because you can use it anywhere. So, and when I started to develop the model some time ago, I named it some kind of hybrid practice. And what is the hybrid practice? It's something that you mix good predictive practice from the predictive approaches that are more focused on the management process that gives you predictability, and also putting together some adaptive approaches that is more focused on the product development. And then you have a good mindset for both worlds. And when you mix both of them, creating predictive practice or hybrid practice, you can take some more lean processes for the predictive approaches. And also you can give some more structure from the adaptive practices. So you get it in the middle of them, taking the best of both worlds, and you can put them together. This is what I call hybrid practice, okay? And there are many, many of them. And the FLEKS model here is focused always on the value delivery. But what is value? There are many kinds of value that you can deliver in your projects, in your company, in your life, anything. And here, basically, the definition of value is something that's a relation between benefits that you create, or saying what you're going to gain after the project or during the project, and the cost or even the resources that you need to implement or create these benefits. This is the definition of value. There's a relationship between value and a cost and benefit. Okay, but here in FLEKS, there's a big difference because sometimes there's a great amount of uncertainty or a least amount of certainty regarding delivering this value. So you have to consider also the risks regarding the possibility to deliver this value. It's very naive when you think about, okay, I'm going to have this benefit and I'm going to spend this money. Okay, this is good for me. And what about the level of uncertainty around this? And this makes a huge change in when you're delivering something. Because when you create, for example, a backlog or define your scope or defining your portfolio, you just don't have to prioritize by the value. You have to prioritize by the value regarding the risks associated to this process. And this is why is the most important fact on the FLEKS model. The most important goal here on the model is to deliver value, maximize the value delivery with the minimum risk as possible. This is a completely change in your mindset. It's not a question of prioritizing. You have to find the best set of projects, the best set of deliverables, the best set of your programs or everything you have, initiatives. You have to find the best set that maximize the values and minimize your risks. And it works for your product backlog, your project backlog, your sprint backlog, or your portfolio. It doesn't matter. Just try to find the best set of initiatives or elements that maximize the value and minimize the risks. And it works for a whole model. You're going to see right now. So to create this value here, I have these things, 6 things here that I name it value variables, traditional elements in project management, portfolio management, but I manage them to create the value. And so we can create a baseline on how you are going to manage these variables to create the value. And one big difference here on the FLEKS model, because this FLEKS is flexibility, it comes from flexibility, is that everything here is flexible with KS, not with X. Why everything is flexible? If I want something flexible to adapt to both worlds, I don't have the obligation to keep, for example, a steady time box or a cost or a scope or risk or resources. You can do that on the FLEKS model if it's important for you for delivering the value. But here you are allowed to flexibilize everything you need because the real goal here is to deliver value. If you need to flexibilize one of these variables that will be your baseline, management baseline, you have the right to do this. So this is a big difference on the model. Okay, these are the value variables that you have to manage. And you manage that in a portfolio level, in a project level, or in a product level, or even the organization. Everything works on the same mindset. So the FLEKS model is based on this four pillars here, which is flexibility. Everything must be flexible. You must integrate everything. And this is, I'm going to bring you a little toy that I know you must know it. You know that? Gaurav, do you know this toy here? Everything here on the FLEKS model, I consider that I can assemble that in some minutes because you must have an integrated view. It's not a question of recognizing just your scope, your time, your cost, your resources, your risk. Everything must be seen, just like we said here. Everything must be seen in an integrated view. Everything must be integrated in order to create a balance. And this mindset is also very important on the FLEKS model, how to create this balance and how to integrate things. Everything is explained on the guide. We also have the communication and people there. We have to create open communication to make transparency, decision-making, and consider people, empathy for people, because projects are made for people, by people, to change people's lives. So we must help people to be involved on the whole process. These are the pillars of the FLEKS model. Okay, everything was built on it. We have a different mindset here that is based on some important characteristics with focus, tailored. The FLEKS model is completely tailored for your organization. You can put everything in small or big, depending on your organization. You have to work in teamwork, learning constantly, and adaptation. The model allows adaptations to the environment to get feedback, just like on an agile approach, but giving you predictability. So this is the most important mindset that you have to create when applying the FLEKS model. And you also have, I have defined it for eight management principles that guides you towards how to implement this value, how to implement the pillars, and how to facilitate your life implementing this. I'm going to show you just a brief explanation about this. We have focus on value delivery. You have a progressive management. You don't have to plan everything at the same time. You must have stages or releases or phases. You have to gain knowledge and improve your management process. You have to integrate and balance interests, needs, scope, time. You have to integrate everything. You have a different thing here, that is situational leadership, because it depends on which people you're going to lead. You have a different way to manage and lead them. So you have to adapt your leadership according to your context. You must create open communications, channels to do that. You have roles and responsibilities defined on the FLEKS model, because this is one argument that I have. Some people say, hey, I'm trying to apply some hybrid practice, but which are the roles? I don't have this role. I have roles for project managers. I have roles for Scrum, for example, but what are the roles? Who has the responsibility to do what? And so I define it on the FLEKS model, roles and responsibility for which one can do anything, in order to have this very clear. We have flexible planning in order to allow people to get flexibility on the planning, on the management process. I'm explaining that on the guide. And we have a continuous improvement process in order to allow you to improve your processes, products, and everything else. So these are the management principles that I use in the model, and everything is explained there on the guide. And here is the main point here. Here's the main point here. This is the big picture of the guide. This is the big picture of the model. And I want to highlight that everything here, just like Gaurav explained it in his post, everything works like a Lego here. It's like a toy. It's very simple to mount, implement, and use the FLEKS model. And these are the main points that I want to highlight right now. For example, you're watching now some squares or rectangles that are big models. There are big models on the FLEKS. And you can use or remove it according to your need. And the FLEKS model is still consistent depending on your need. Okay, let's talk about the big one on the big part on the picture. Here you have the organization. Here you have organization here. Here you have traditional elements from organization that I name it identity, the organizational identity, the purpose, mission, vision, values, and things like this. But here you have the difference on the model here. You have sustainability, which is very important nowadays. And as I told Gaurav, I made a partnership with the Green Project Management Initiative with Joel Carboni, the guy who created the Green Project Management Initiative, is linked with the United Nations. And we are going to implement Green Project Management in FLEKS model. We already have a partnership to do this. And how he loved the model when he said, oh my God, this is the only model I know in the world that already includes the sustainability inside the model. This is a big difference from all. And it takes part of the strategy here, connected with the strategy. And this is very important on the FLEKS model. We have the definition of a strategy here. And also we have change management here, which is a big important and a big difference on the model. We consider that because sometimes we're going to make some changes. You must manage these changes in people's life, in your organization. Everything it's already planned to be conducted on the model here. But if you're not interested in applying any kind of change management or sustainability, you can just remove it from your guide. This is what I call a Lego. You can put things, remove things, and everything works well. Okay, this is the basic part of the model here. This is the point here. And then something else that is very different on the FLEKS model. We have here a VMO. What is a VMO? It's a value management office. As I told you before, I'm focused on delivering value, and I need governance to do this, defining processes, tools, peoples, elements, everything regarding the value delivery in the company. I'm not only focused on the projects, I'm focused on all value chain, everything that you have to create value, knowledge that you have here, process, tools, people, training, risks, everything regarding the chain, suppliers, everything, infrastructure, everything, culture, everything that you need to create value. This is why I have the governance here, because they have to implement a value delivery governance process here. So this is the heart of the model. This is the VMO, the Value Management Office, that takes care of the value governance. But as I told you before, I have on the FLEKS model, the goal here is to maximize value and minimize risks. This is why risk management is so important here in this process. Okay, this works all together. The value governance and risk management is very close on the responsibility of the VMO here. We consider knowledge management, and also we have here the VMO is responsible for the OKR, objective and key results, which is an adaptive strategy, adaptive way, is agile way to implement a strategy, and making a link between the OKR and your traditional strategy, you start to implement a hybrid strategy practice. So this is very important for you if you want to create a strategy that is more adaptable. Okay, so here they also consider the initiatives, which initiatives will take part of your OKRs or your projects. And then you have KPI definitions, you have reviews in order to adapt your OKR cycles. So this is the basic function of the VMO. And when the VMO here starts to think, oh, which initiatives, which projects or portfolios or programs I have to implement, sometimes you need to assess, because you have to think, is it possible? Is it feasible? How much we're going to gain with that? So we have a business analysis model here, which is very, very important because it makes a link between the what you think you have to do in order to reach your goals and the projects that you're going to deliver. So this is the middle part. It's a link between what you're going to produce actually and what you think you can do. And here you have the business analysis events, okay, the need analysis, solution ideation, the value delivery, and the business case. And here on the FLEKS model is something very different. You can download the Canvas guide on the website. And Gaurav, if you can put the website there, it's good for them. You can download the guide. Yeah, you can download the guides and you can download the Canvas guides. That everything here, many events here, you have a Canvas to help you implement this activity. So exactly like this, it's very easy. It's very easy to implement because you have many tools to help you implement that. Okay, so here after that you can use it or not depending on your organization. Elio, I don't need that. I'm a small organization. I don't need the business analysis complex. Just remove it. Just define your process and implement it. That's exactly like this. This is how flexible is like a Lego, because you can implement or remove something that you need. Okay, and here you have the production layers here. This is the heart of the value creation model here. And I'm going to start not by the portfolio this time, Gaurav. I'm going to start by the smaller part here that is exactly like the Scrum, but with some main important difference here. We are not doing Scrum, but on the same way, because people are used to do this on the agile approaches. But we have the iteration planning here. And then in this meeting here, we define everything that we are going to execute on the iteration. But what we have here is something very, very different. Here, we have to plan when we are going to do our iteration meetings that are equivalent to the daily meeting on the Scrum, but it's not necessary to do it daily because we are in a hybrid approach. We are in a hybrid approach. Sometimes you need it in daily, sometimes you don't. So you have the flexibility to use it or not. Maybe it's not necessary to meet every day, but weekly on half an hour or 1 hour. It's better for the team. So you gain flexibility to do what you want. You don't have to follow a strict and rigid process if you don't need or if you don't have to. So this is the point. And also here on the Scrum, for example, or Agile approaches, you have sprints that are always on the same time, on the same backlog, or on the same time box. Here, you can do that if you want, but if you need something to be delivered in the different times, you have to do that, and you are allowed to do this because this is your goal, because this is how you're going to deliver more value with less risks and brings you more flexibility in order to implement everything exactly on the same way you need in your clients, in your organization. You don't have to keep everything rigid like that. And this is a very, very, very important difference between FLEKS and some other approaches. So you have traditional reviews and retrospective. And as soon as you understand what a Scrum is or an iteration is, you can raise it for the whole portfolio. Okay, so these are the product management layer. That is important that this part here, this layer here delivers value, builds value. We have a building value creation cycle on the FLEKS model. But you can do something very agile here. You can use just this part of the FLEKS model if you want. You are going to be agile just like everyone else. And then you have some things different here because you have a product management process here. There's not just the Scrum down here. You have something to manage this product delivery. So this is another big difference between model, because if you're only doing something in a production level, you need, because you're trying to apply hybrid practice, you need something to be managed. And this is how you plan your production management. Here you have the value variables. Remember, scope, time, cost, risk, man, you have to plan that because you need it. So you can implement a kind of agility, but a little bit more predictability in your pure product management. So this is the production layer. And then if you need to have something a little bit more than just an agile approach or with some more predictability, you have the project management layer, which is traditional project management with the lean processes that are exactly on the same way that you think on an agile approach. You have to plan what you're going to do in your project. And here we have a project manager, traditional project manager, not only a Scrum Master and a product owner. We don't have these roles here. We have the product manager and we have the development team here. Why we don't have the Scrum Master and product owner? Because the product manager does everything the product owner does plus something else. And we don't have a Scrum Master because we have a project manager here that does everything that a Scrum Master does and something else. Okay, he does some things that a Scrum Master, traditional Scrum Master, doesn't do because he's a project manager. He deals with procurement, risks, stakeholders, costs, scope. He gives predictability to your projects. This is the main difference. This is how you mix both agile approaches and project approaches. So the project manager here is responsible for the predictable part of your project and is going to plan the project, start the project, then we have to review the project. As soon as things are going to be delivered here you have the reviews, here you have the reviews, the iteration reviews, you have the release reviews, and also you have the project reviews, just to check how things are going on. So it's the same mindset. You have small iterations on the sprint here, or the iterations, and you have the reviews on the releases, reviews on the projects, and you also have reviews on your portfolio. Everything works on the same way. This is how and why FLEKS is so simple to implement. Everyone knows exactly what they have to do, and they work on the same way, the same mindset, the same events, everybody just working on different levels. Because here on the portfolio level, for example, you have to plan the portfolio, and you have the coordination meeting that exactly on the same way a daily meeting, but regarding all projects. You have to review what you're doing on your portfolio, just like on your project, on your release, and on your iteration. You have retrospective here, retrospective on the portfolio, on the project, and also on the delivery value. Everything works on the same way. So it's very easy to understand and implement it because everybody has the same mindset, the same events, the same things. And these are the roles here that you have, the VMO, the business analyst responsible for this part here, and the portfolio manager, program manager, you can do that, project, product, and team developer. These are the roles and these are the face of the main characteristics of the model. One thing left, also, here you can merge things. Merge, for example, Elio, I don't have these roles, all these roles in your company. Okay. A project manager can do this, business analyst. Yes, he can. He can mix the roles. These are not functional on the organization. These are roles that you can implement. A project manager can do this and also can be the product manager. Yes, he can. Everything can be tailored to your needs on the FLEKS model. And these are the main characteristics of the model. Okay? So this is the big picture of the model. And these are the main events for each layer, for business analysis, portfolio, project, and product layer. They are events. Described on the guide, you have the inputs that you need, who takes part of each event, and what artifacts you produce. And we have tools, just like 10 or 11 canvas, that helps you on each event. You have canvas for planning your iteration, for example. You have canvas to plan your, let's say that, value design. You have canvas for business cases. We have canvas for many things, for risk management, for stakeholder management. We have many canvas there that helps you on different layers. Everything is described on the guide, and you have to read a little bit more to get in depth to understand everything there. But everything works like this. You have some inputs, who takes part of the meeting, responsibilities, and what you deliver. Everything is written on the guide with helping tools to get there. And these are the main events. I also want to show you some real cases that are already using there, especially in Brazil where the model was created. We have the IInd here, it's a food company. The IT part of the company is a food company, just like they get delivering cards, selling cards for companies and people who use cards to pay food on markets and restaurants and organizations. They are a big company, they are an international company, but the focus in Brazil is there, and they are using IInd there. We have the Bank of Brazil. We have the Bank of Brazil here. Yeah, IT department is using FLEKS, and we have a meeting today because we're implementing there. We have a meeting on the afternoon here. We have a meeting today. This is another bank in Brazil because they're implementing the VMO just like exactly on the same way on the FLEKS model describes. They are implementing a VMO there using the processes to manage their strategy using the VMO according to the FLEKS model. We have a government of one state in Brazil. They are promoting social projects using the FLEKS model, not everything, but just the projects and the product layers on the FLEKS model. As I told you, you can pick some pieces on the FLEKS model, implement as you want. And they don't need a portfolio management, and also don't need a business analysis, and also don't need a VMO. They're just using projects and product layers. They're using this, okay? This is a government of one state in Brazil. This is a Brazilian aluminum company, They're using FLEKS on portfolio, business analysis, and project layers, not a VMO. because they want to keep the PMO that they have there because they already established there, and they want to implement the FLEKS in parts. So let's do just the business analysis, the portfolio, projects, and products. And if it works well, we are going to move to a whole organization. They're starting to implement that in phases. And this is how things are doing there. This is a logistic company in Brazil. The IT part of the logistic company is using that. This is one of my students in my trainings. It was in July. He loved the model. He's responsible for the IT in the logistic part, and he's implementing FLEKS there for his projects and programs. This is a non-profit organization in Brasilia. It's also using. This is a company in Canada. That's one of my partners that is the start project now in Canada. He's implementing there. It's a paper company. It's like a paper here. It's a roll of paper here. And they're implementing the FLEKS there for projects. And we also have a meeting tomorrow to help them doing this. And these are real cases that I'm helping people to implement. But I have around 200 people training this year, last year here in 2020. They are implementing FLEKS on their ways. I don't know. These are the projects that I'm real involved on these projects right now. But people are using there somehow, but I don't have control. Just like so, they are using, but I don't have control. I have some contact with them. I clear some doubts. I have some coaches, but I don't know what exactly they are doing. But these are the projects and organizations that I am helping right now on the project FLEKS model implementation. And these are some partners that I have created last year. This is the Green Project Management. Okay, here we have the Pomegranate, is a company in Brazil. Here project. This is in Canada, and this is also in Brazil. This is a training company and consultancy company, and they are implementing there. Okay, these are the main focus of my implementation right now at this moment on the FLEKS model. And here I just want to talk about a certification. We have a certification process, okay, on the FLEKS model that you can certify as a hybrid management. On the certification process, as well as you take the course, as well as you take the training, you are allowed to take the test, which takes around 1 hour to be taken, 50 questions, and you have to reach at least 70% of performance. And if you get there, you get this beautiful diploma, okay? And then you are a hybrid manager. When you'll be tested, you're going to be tested on hybrid approaches, predictive, adaptive, and how to implement the model, how to implement hybrid approaches. And if you answer the words correctly, you can prove me that you are a hybrid manager. So it will last forever. You don't have to reassess from time to time. It's a one-time life certification, and you can do that very easily. It's an online test, proctored, because to give you reliability, and then you can have a diploma like this. Okay, this is just an example of the number one, the people here in Brazil. There was the number one. He's a friend of mine, Carla. He's a great project manager. So he was the first one to implement it. And here we have our contacts. And from now, as I promised to my friend, it will be around 40 minutes to explain something. And then we are clear to clear some doubts and some things, ask questions. Gaurav,
yeah.
Is it okay?
Yes.
I promise you, no more than 40, 45 minutes, and I'm okay right now.
Yes. So it was an interesting.
Okay. I know it's very fast. There is a lot of things to talk. It's a lot of things. During the training, it's a 12-hour training, online training, clearing doubts, how to implement, details, tools. We have some practice during the training. It's a completely online. And when we do the training, we record there. And even if you are not able to attend the class right now, you can watch the video later. And when Gaurav, during the last certification process in Brazil, we have created a group on WhatsApp, and we give the whole support for the class to clear doubts. They share information. They tell us, oh, I have created this summary here. They share information and help people on the training, on the tests, and everything is involved on the process of the training and the certification. And one thing must be very clear here, because when you finish the training, you have 1 month to certificate. And this is a very important thing to be said. Why? Oh, wait, but I don't have time, because we really believe that after finishing the class, in this time period, 1 month, it's enough to study and take the test. Because if you take the test 2, 3, 4 months later, you forget many things. So this is why it's so important to take the course and then implement it. And as soon as you have this certification, you are free to do everything you want. You're not obliged to charge anything from me. You are a manager, hybrid manager certified, FLEKS hybrid manager certified. You can implement, you can give trainings, you can get anything you want because you're certified on the model. Okay, and the model is completely free for you to use and implement as well as you want. This is all. Finish.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Dr. Elio. So I think there were a lot of discussions going on the chat window. Some of them I was able to answer, but
wow, 61 things.
Yes. So, okay, so I think we can start, I think from the bottom one. I think there was discussion around VMO and governance. So I think question was from Prasad and I think Dr.
Hi,
Amar.
Prasad.
Yeah.
You can show up. You can, so people can show up and so ask me questions. Ask me questions, not only by chat. We are here to see yourself.
Gaurav, do you want to read out the questions instead? Because I don't remember exactly what they were.
Yeah, so I think you started with, I think, solution ideation. I think that was your first question. I can just go to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
We are so far. It's nice to see you. It's nice to see you. I just don't need to see Gaurav and Jazz.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
That was not the first question, but I remember now. That was one of the questions. So my question was that can you hear me, Elio?
Yes.
I can hear you, but it's very low.
One sec. Let me. I'll just increase the mic.
Great.
One sec.
I think it's clear. I think we can.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, it's better.
Yeah, I'll increase the volume. Yeah. So what I was saying is you have initiative selection under the VMO layer. You have portfolio management at the top in the center. And we are talking about solution ideation. Now, all these three are related to each other because when we talk of solution ideation, it comes right at the beginning of initiative selection because solution ideas are generated. It passes through the portfolio management initiative selection process, and if the ideas are found to be worthwhile, then we would want to experiment with it. So essentially, solution ideation happens to be one of the first steps in the initiative selection funnel, right? It's a funnel. So my point is, there should be some way of showing they are connected, because when you show initiative selection and solution ideation separately, it kind of detaches the two and gives people the impression that probably they are not related to each other.
No, they are very related and they are attached to each other. They're attached. The things there are just to identify the events there, but it works together. It's not a different, a separated process. When you're trying to identify the selection, sometimes you need a business analysis to identify and to understand the need, to identify the solution, identify the ideation, to define the value, to agree the value, and then the initiative selections is going to be decided. It's a coordinated process. It's not something that one thing apart from the other. They work together. It's just a different layer, but they work together. Sometimes when you are in a VMO, for example, I have an idea to do something like this. Maybe it comes from your higher levels on your organizations, and they have the ideas, but they don't know if it's feasible or not. And the VMO is trying to understand, okay, what is going to be our portfolio? But I am a VMO, sometimes I don't have the ability to understand if it's viable, how much it costs or not. And so you have to use the business analysis to identify if it's feasible or not, to put this initiative into your portfolio. So it's not a separated thing. It's part of the process. I'm just identifying things. There are different elements that is important to exist on the model. I'm not saying that is different. Okay, it's not
So
separate.
we can move across layers at any time, right, Dr. Elio? That is what you're trying to say?
Do you want me to show the presentation again?
Yeah, so we can move across the layers as you gave the example of Lego. So I believe,
Okay.
yeah, I think that would be more clear if you can just share it.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. Let me share the screen here. Here.
Yeah.
Here. That's it. Okay. For example, let's assume here that during your strategy here, and strategic goals, find something. Okay, we need to do something, and these ideas come from your CEO, for example, or your C-suite level, and then they come. We have the intention to do this, and then comes to the VMO and say, okay, this can be part of our selections, part of our portfolio. But let's check if understand this. Let's check if there is a feasible solution, and they work together just to define what is going to take part of your portfolio. And when you're planning here, what's going to take part of your portfolio in your OKR cycle. Okay, it's like a cycle.
Veja o que encontrei.
Oh my God, what's going on? It's just a computer. And here you can use this business analysis layer here to check the feasibility of the initiatives that you're trying to select. This is the point. Is it clear now?
Thanks.
Okay, it's not different. It's not apart one from the other. They work together. And also, Gaurav, I want to explain something I forgot here. When you have the OKR here that works in cycles, let's say quarters, here on the FLEKS model, you have something very interesting because your portfolio layer here works in cycles. And these cycles are the same cycles of the OKR. They are working together. So this is what we have, portfolio iteration, that then the OKR can be controlled in the same way you are controlling your portfolio initiatives. And how it happens here, for example, the VMO defines some initiatives that turns into a portfolio backlog. Exactly on the same way, for example, you have a product backlog here. And when you are in a Scrum, for example, when you're planning your iteration, you have to define what is going to take part of your iteration, creating your iteration backlog, just like a sprint backlog. And here it works on the same way. The VMO defines a lot of initiatives here that is desired for the company, but defines what is more important here that brings more value and minimize the risks of the OKR cycle for reaching the goals. And then the portfolio manager here takes this portfolio backlog and turns something into a portfolio iteration backlog. Because what is possible to be implemented in this small cycle that is exactly on the same way on the OKR. So everyone is working on the same thoughts, on the same way. This is a backlog for the portfolio, a backlog for the iteration, a backlog for the project, a backlog for the release, a backlog for the product, and a backlog for the iteration. Everybody working on the same way. This is why it's so simple to implement that. Pranab, did I answer your question, Prasad?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think Prasad also had another question regarding if different teams, Scrum teams have different duration of iterations, will it not create a problem in the release?
No.
Flexibility.
Yeah, you must have flexibility to say that. This is a different mindset. This is a different mindset. For example, Prasad, let's suppose they have different teams. They have different teams. If you have only one team, it's not possible to do this. But if you have different teams, you can do this in parallel, okay? So, as I told you before, here on the FLEKS model, you don't need to have fixed time box for everything. Why? Because if you are in a hybrid approach, sometimes you have a more predictive scope. to deliver. And for example, let's suppose that you have a fixed time box for a sprint, for example, that is 3 weeks, 3 weeks. But your priority right now is to deliver a value that is not, can be done in 3 weeks. Let's say it is 5 weeks. Okay, what are you going to do? You have to break your scope? No, you have to deliver things on 5 weeks. But Elliot, now you have lost your predictability on your Scrum. Yes, I'm not losing everything because I'm delivering value. And the value here is delivering 5 weeks. I don't have to break my scope here in small part because the client and you need something that can be done only in 5 weeks. And you can do things in parallel. And you can do this thing here. And if you have multiple teams here, you don't have to do this on a different way. You can do that with one team, and then you have small iterations if you want with parallel teams doing something that you need, mixing a kind of agile approach and also a predictive approach. There's no problem in using different teams, doing different things, because you are able to work on both environments at the same time. This is the magic and the beauty of a hybrid approach, because you are not attached to only one mindset. And this is what is most important to change on the mindset of your team in your organization. You are free to do whatever you want as soon as you deliver the value. This is the point.
Elio, but this is, it's not about, frankly, it's not about the mindset here. You know, when you've got multiple teams on a project, they will obviously work in parallel. They need to. But if they don't start work and end work at the same time, then if the iterations are not of the different teams are not synchronized, how are they going to integrate the work? For instance, if there are 2 teams, you know, one team is working on a 2-week iteration and other team is working on a 3-week iterations. How are they going to integrate the work? Because they are all related to each other. So releasing will be a big problem because integration is important. If one team has a 2-week iteration and another team has got 4-week iterations, then after every 4 weeks they will meet. But if it is 2 weeks and 3 weeks, it's going to be an integration nightmare. I don't understand how that's going to happen.
Okay. Now I got you. You're telling me that there is, for example, 2 different teams, one working in a 2-week iteration and another one working on a 3-week iteration. Is that?
Yes.
That's your question.
That's
okay.
Right.
You're asking about the product manager or the project manager? That's the first question. Why? Here, if you have one team working here, okay, here on a 2-week iteration, and also you have another team working in a 3-week iteration, okay? Here, before that, on the product manager layer here, you have the release planning, okay? And also you have the product planning. On the product planning here, you have an overview of how you are going to deliver the value in releases, okay? And these release here can be composed by, for example, 2 or 3 sprints, okay? And maybe one team can do this in 2 weeks, and the other team works that in 3 weeks. Maybe they finish at the same time, maybe they not, okay? Because here you have a planning and you have a roadmap to define how iterations are going to take place. And you can coordinate here, and this is why you have a product manager, not just only a product owner. You have to plan how you are going to interact and conduct this kind of integration. This is why you have to plan here. It's not a problem to have 2 weeks and 3 weeks, because if they need to meet to coordinate things, they can do that. It's different from everything, okay, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, we get together to see how things work. No, we can meet at any time. You're free to do that. It's not a problem of integration, because when you are planning your product and also when you're planning your release, you have to define on your release planning, for example, that you're going to have some sprints. And maybe this sprint takes 2 weeks, and maybe this week takes sprint 3 weeks. And here we have 1 week sprints, and they have to coordinate, because this is why you are a manager. You have to plan like a project manager. There's no problem in doing that. It's just a question of coordinate how you're going to coordinate your team here. This is why you have the planning, and planning, and also planning. That's the point. It's not. I don't see any problem in integrating things happening on different time durations. I did it many times in my life. I don't see. It's just a question of how you're going to integrate, creating a roadmap that works for you.
So Dr. Elio, what essentially you are trying to say, we need to identify for these different teams when the value is being delivered. It's not on the basis of duration, but
no, it's not.
as and when the value is to be delivered or it's ready to be delivered, right?
If you can take, if you have, for example, one team, let's say that this is the release, okay, and you have small iterations inside your release. One team or maybe many teams, depending on your order you're going to deliver, okay? And this release is part of your own big product, for example. I don't have any problem in having a team here, working here, and another team working here, and they're getting together. And the product manager is coordinating the work. This is why he's a manager, not only a product owner. This is the point.
And related to this, now, how would we estimate for these releases? How much time the releases would take?
It depends on 3 basic factors: the level of uncertainty, the complexity, and team velocity.
Yeah, so that's the point. My point is, if different teams are going to use different velocities, different iteration lengths, how will we use velocity to estimate the duration? Estimation depends on the velocity, and if one team's iterations keep changing or the duration of iteration keeps changing, you can't compute velocity, because velocity is calculated for one fixed duration.
Yeah, I know that. But what is more important for you, to deliver the value or keep the velocity?
No, it's not about that. I'm asking about how would you estimate using velocity? That's my question.
Okay, I'll show you right now. Here, okay, let's turn it back. Here, remember, you are not only on a pure agile approach. You don't have to think only on the same way as Scrum does. You have to think in both levels, in different levels. When you're planning here on the project management layer here, you are planning on predictive approaches, time, months, weeks. You're not using story points, because you need predictability here for the higher levels, okay, for the portfolio here. But when you are here on the product manager here, you can use the story points, for example, just like on the Scrum model. Well, let's say, let me show you how I implemented that on the last time, okay? For example, if using the Scrum guide, for example, to calculate the team velocity, you have, for example, 2 weeks, okay? Let's say that you have a sprint of 2 weeks. And then you have to keep the 2 weeks just to calculate the team velocity. Is it correct? This is how you're talking. This is correct. You have to keep the time to see how much work you can produce in 2 weeks. This is a traditional way of doing this on an agile way. But let's suppose that you have here a 3 week, a team working with 2 weeks and another team works with 3 weeks. Okay, and you have to estimate and have a kind of predictability. A 3 week is divided in weeks, isn't it? Can you as a manager say that, yeah, okay, we are going to measure this in weeks or 2 weeks and take the performance on weeks, and we can compare it. Here you have a 2 weeks. Let me show you again. 2 weeks, and then you have 3 weeks. And you can compare here at the 2 weeks level or even at 1 week level. You can do that. because it's more important here. It's not so I'm not so rigid regarding the time, because time is one parameter. Remember, I have 6 parameters: time, scope, cost, resources, risks, and quality. The more important here is the value that you deliver. I'm not so attached to do this on fixed time. You can do that, but you have flexibility to change it, because I'm more focused on the value, not only to keep the team velocity is not the only one parameter that is important for me, because I have 6 parameters to deliver value. This is a mindset that we must change it when using hybrid approaches, because the time speed, the time velocity is not the only one that it matters. There are 6 ones. This is a different mindset that we have to apply when you're trying to implement both practice. Because if you are only focused on the team velocity, you are only using agile approaches. And we are not on a pure agile approach. We are on a hybrid approach. You must consider something else than just the team velocity. Because, for example, here, if you're managing your project here, you need time. Sometimes here, you need a Microsoft project here. You're not using user stories and story points. We are in a hybrid approach, not a pure team velocity here. They can use it here to help themselves, but base it on some more traditional estimates here.
Thanks.
Okay. So I think there was another question from Roma. I think she has just dropped off. She was asking, are architects also part of this development team? They will be.
Yeah, you can use it. Yeah, as development team is something. It depends. I didn't
Yes.
define specific roles on the model,
Right.
because you can use it IT, you can use it in logistics, engineering, and there is one people using the FLEKS model on HR in Brazil. I know Cristina is a person of HR. They don't have architects.
Yeah.
So listen, if your development team needs an architect, use it.
Yeah. And probably the reason is because I believe people are comparing it with the scaled agile framework. So they have different roles like architects, right?
It's not like that. It's not like that. It's not like that. I understand. I understand. I see safe, and as you are a safe agilist, they're comparing architects. We don't have it here. I try to simplify the roles, and you can apply any role you want depending on your organization. I don't have, for example, safe is more like for IT. So you have the architect in your mind. But if you are in a HR, if you are in a bank, if you are in a logistic, if you are in something else, engineering, you don't have an architect here. So we don't need to think about the same roles. I just try to keep the minimal roles that I think is important for the model, and you can adapt it. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. Are there any other questions? I feel there are still 12 people on the call. So if there are any final questions?
There are 61, there are, I think, 61 questions, or no, just comments here. Okay, a PMO is essentially a DMO. A PMO is essentially a VMO, because a PMO will be able to sustain it if not focus on business value. So I didn't understand why CBA said they don't need a VMO, because they already have a PMO. This is why. A PMO can do anything a VMO does. Yes. Yes. But here I'm trying to get focus on the value management process here. I'm going to share a screen again just for the last time here, because we are almost there. Here, one major difference here is that here on the PMO, classic PMO, they're focused on the projects and control projects and things like this. Here, let's say the bureaucratic part of the PMO is considered here, as well as the classic portfolio management processes, just like selection and things like this. Here on the FLEKS model, this portfolio here, management here, layer here, is focused on the product delivery. It's just on the flow. They control the flow and resources and schedules and how the project's flow are going to take place. The focus here is operational. Focus here is flow, selection, KPRs, also the reviews here, initiative selection, performance, everything is controlled by the VMO, just like a PMO does, okay? And the focus here on the portfolio is on the flow, the value delivery flow. This is an important difference that must be said also. Refer FLEKS guy, yeah, that's it. Well, Gaurav. Hello? Gaurav, are you there?
No, I think he's frozen. His screen is frozen, so I'm not sure whether he's around.
Yeah, he's mute. He's mute. Prasad, did I answer your questions?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Do you think it's possible to do like that?
Frankly, I have a lot of disagreements, but I think we can sort them out. Maybe some other time.
Okay. It's a different mindset. It's different mindset. So it's a kind of different way of working. This is why I understand you that you must keep your team velocity as a parameter, but team velocity is one of the parameters that you can use in a hybrid approach. Not only the only one. If you're only applying the Scrum, for example, this is the only parameter you have. So most of the time, and so you have to keep it. So if you're trying to use other parameters to deliver value, this is not the only one. This is why I'm trying to implement this kind of flexibility on your mindset. This is the difference. I understand your disagreement, but I have tested and used it many times, and it works. It really works as soon as you change your mindset. For example, let's say that you're working on an engineering company. How you're going to estimate things in story points for building a bridge, for example. This is not possible. They don't think like that. They don't think like that. And they can use the same practice, flexibility, adaptability, but they don't use the team velocity. They use the scope and quality and risks and costs, and you can use it. If you think only for IT, people are using story points and people are using story thing like this, it's possible. But if you are in a more predictive or hybrid approach, sometimes it's not useful. So this is why it's a little bit different. The mindset is a little bit different. That's the point. Well,
yeah, I think we are already 9 minutes past.
Yes. Yeah. I'm okay. Right now.
Yeah.
I can clear it out if I am able to.
So, any other questions, or we can, I think, conclude this session.
A traditional project manager might be a risk to the role of Scrum Master unless she is able to change his behavior. Yes, Prasad, you're written here, a traditional project manager might be a risk to the role of a Scrum Master. And this is the point. This is why I don't have a Scrum Master on the model. I have a project manager. He facilitates things. He coordinates, he coaches, he trains the team because he knows the model. He knows how to apply both approaches. The project manager here is like a Google translator. Think about that. If you are a Google translator, you can translate important information from your up level to your down level, production and higher scales in your company. So it's like a bridge, and they can talk about predictability and they can talk about agility. So this is not a question of a risk to the Scrum Master because we don't have a Scrum Master here. We have the role of the project manager that does everything the Scrum Master does: time control, procedures, the rules, the mindset, the principles, everything like the Scrum Master can do on the Scrum, the project manager can do on the same model. I don't think it as a risk. I think this is a kind of different role. Okay, this is different because some things that you do as a project manager, a Scrum Master can do. And if you are in a more predictable or in a hybrid approach, you need something from a project manager that a Scrum Master usually don't have the ability to do because he's not trained on that.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think we have covered I think most of the questions, and people can just visit the website which I've shared on the link and know more about this model. And please feel free to approach Dr. Elio or me for any questions, right? Thank you very much, Dr. Elio, and thanks to everyone for joining this session.
Okay. It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure. Have a good night for you. Okay.
Thank you.
And I hope you have a 2021, a wonderful 2021
Yes.
with vaccines and health and something like this. And I hope to see you on the training on late January. It will be a great experience. And I hope to have FLEKS certified people in India.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone, and wish you a very happy New Year once again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.